Something is brewing with Titanfall, and it could be something as simple as a game mode, or we could be seeing the very first semblance of a runway for Titanfall 3. Well, more than we've ever really seen before. It's been an ongoing conversation ever since Titanfall 3 was summarily put to the side, albeit maybe even scrapped, so that they could build Apex Legends, and consistently there's been clues, even actual Easter eggs from Titanfall inside of Apex Legends, and now we have some things happening within the game of Titanfall 2, pointing to something coming in the future. We have a lot to look at. Somebody on Reddit, I think, gave us a very, very nice breakdown. It's a nice list of all the things that have recently taken place inside of Titanfall 2. Many people thought the game was all but abandoned, as hackers and other people have just been taking them down and messing with the game, DDoSing, all these terrible things, making the game basically unplayable. And many people just thought, you know what, they're just going to walk away from this. It's just too much trouble. Why bother? Who cares? Just shut everything down. This tends to happen with really any PvP game after you're not putting out updates. You've got cheaters, people running aimbots, people taking the servers down, just all sorts of, nasty behavior, sort of when you don't maintain the game anymore. I remember this always happening with Call of Duty, right? You'd get enough distance away from a release, and then the next release would come out, and then the former game would kind of fall by the wayside. So I think a lot of people thought that's what was going on with Titanfall 2, but they've actually been doing a lot of things inside of the game. We also have a tweet that is pointing to, we're going to take a look at it, like a mysterious new game mode. We're going to look at the screenshots from that. And then an article from Insider Gaming. They've got clues dropping inside the game. It's pointing to certain things. We've got dates and other things brewing. And on the onset, I don't know if this is just something that they're doing for fun, like, hey, we're going to throw a mode in. In my mind, I'll sort of put my cards on the table right here on the front end and maybe add to this as I look at all of this. I think maybe they would use Titanfall 2 to do a testing ground. Test out new modes, new ideas, see how the public and the player base responds. If they do, in fact, want to build a Titanfall 3, you could use existing servers, existing assets, the existing game, and do something like this. Do something mysterious that goes kind of viral. And then everybody's talking about it. And then people are going to come and check out your game and give you the much needed information about what type of modes and balancing tweaks and fixes that you might want to go for if you're going to try things that are ambitious. So that's where my mind goes, is that that's what they're using this for. They're going to generate all this hype and excitement, and then they can just gather a bunch of free data, free information on the player base and how players sort of respond and react. So let me just first read off the things they've been doing inside of Titanfall 2. They just pushed out an update after not really doing anything with the game for a very, very long time, and it did fixes to matchmaking and servers, making the game stable and fully playable again, which seems kind of strange given the game's age. They also put the private matches out of the beta. It's been in beta for 8 years. I think they just removed the word beta text from the menu. That's what the person on Reddit is assuming. So they basically took private matches out of beta. Hey, it's no longer in beta. They're probably right. They just took the word off. Basically saying, like, yeah, it's not in beta anymore. They changed geometry on some maps, fixing glitches and out-of-bound exploits. Little Nessie plushies with hammers were put into these spots as an Easter egg / signature. Now, again, I don't know why you would do this if you weren't planning on actually doing something inside the game of Titanfall 2. Why would you fix exploits and out-of-bounds things that you can do and even acknowledge that you did it by putting an Easter egg inside of the game? This sounds to me like you are intending to use these assets, these maps, these servers, and that's what we'll look at here, whatever the secret game mode is. The update also added new and returning game modes and a rotating playlist, which has been updating regularly ever since. They added new weapons for the 1v1 Coliseum game mode. Loadouts have been rotating regularly ever since. So that's what's going on in Titanfall 2 right now, and that's not even kind of the big stuff, right? There's bigger stuff going on. There's this game mode thing we need to look at. And I really do think that people are looking at this from a couple of different ways, right? In one realm, I think there's the idea that, like, oh, we're finally going to get Titanfall 3. In the other realm, it's like, oh, they're just doing something fun inside of Titanfall. So you can see here from Okami Games says, Titanfall 2 has received a mysterious new game mode entitled ? So you can see here, this is what it looks like, okay? This is some game mode coming, and you can see just a bunch of what looks like, Titans coming down from the sky. The description is, your rockets will blow out the sun. I believe that's supposed to be blot out the sun. I believe this is a typo. Your rockets will blow out the sun or blot out the sun, a reference to the movie 300. Now, maybe, again, they mean blow out, but they're referencing the 300 quote. Fans have been speculating that Respawn is teasing something after a mysterious Nessie transmission was found written in Apex Legends patch notes. Titanfall 2 was also recently updated for the first time in years. So we just read through all of the updates and everything that they did, and then they've got this mysterious game mode. So we're going to look at this Insider Gaming article that looks at the transmissions, the Nessie transmissions, and what exactly those are and what they look like, because I think when you start dropping hints like this, you are essentially communicating to the public that, hey, we're getting ready to do something, and obviously everybody's curious as to what that actually is. So the article here from Insider Gaming by David Coulson says, Titanfall 2 updates leave curious clues across the game. It has been 7 years since Titanfall 2 was released, and it is currently the latest entry in the series. Although its popularity was a slow burn, it has become a very beloved game that still has a cult following today, with it recently seeing a 90% increase in sales, which I don't know how much. Listen, that's not saying much, right? You're going from virtually nothing to, a boost in sales because people are hearing about this. There were some, like I said, there were some references in Apex Legends that made people start talking about it again. I've always felt that Titanfall 2 did not get a fair shake as a game at launch at a terrible time. They were basically trying to go up against Battlefield and Call of Duty, which I think was an enormous mistake. If you would have waited for those games to kind of run their cycle of content and hit a drought and then drop your game, it would have been massive for Titanfall. Titanfall 2, to this date, in my opinion, is one of the best first-person shooter campaigns you can play. Only criticism is it's a little short and the final boss fight's not that great, but it's amazing. It's still, to this date, in my mind, is one of the best first-person shooter campaigns you can play. I always thought they could do so much with the game and the Titans and co-op and different classes and even co-op PvE, playing with other people. I think there's just so much potential within this world, and many people have always been frustrated by the fact that they went to Apex instead. This article kind of touches on that. Moving on from the core Titanfall series, Respawn Entertainment became known for Apex Legends, a battle royale game that takes place in the same universe as Titanfall. Although most of Respawn's resources are focused on Apex Legends, the studio has been quietly updating Titanfall 2, which could hint that something is in the works. I've always sort of been frustrated by their decision, but it's hard to call it a bad one or a mistake. With the success of Apex Legends, they were going up against the odds. At the time, Fortnite was absolutely booming. Everybody was trying to launch a battle royale. There was Realm Royale. There was the one from Cliffy B. There was a ton of people trying to do the BR thing. And Apex Legends did it. They pulled it off. They've been around. They've still got this, streamers to this date playing it, doing the tournaments, doing the thing. And you got to hand it to them. They took something that they're known for, which is very crisp and satisfying gunplay, and they took it into the battle royale arena and created, class-based combat with abilities and counters. And then they've been adding characters, and the characters have cool voice acting and backstory. They've put a lot into this game, which I can praise all those things, but still have this twinge of frustration with, man, I don't like BRs. I would much rather be playing Titanfall 3 right now. So maybe we're getting that, maybe not. And they're taking a look here further, saying, recently the servers for Titanfall 2 have been experiencing issues where players would be disconnected unexpectedly, which is understandably very frustrating. But over the past few days, these issues have been fixed by Respawn, along with various glitches and issues that were presenting in the game. One of the most interesting things to surface following these fixes is the all-new presence of the plushie mascot Nessie from Apex Legends, which has been strewn around Titanfall 2. This looked like a strange thing to do, but it could have a deeper meaning. Now, we know what this is because we already read about it, right? That was them going through and fixing those exploits and those out-of-bound areas. And again, I don't think you're going to do that unless you plan on people playing on these maps in the near future. Not just the people that are kind of like cult following, super loyal, but they must have plans to drive traffic to Titanfall 2, would be my guess. There'd be no reason for these patch notes. But then we get to the transmissions, and it says here, along with adding nods to Apex Legends in Titanfall 2, the patch notes for the most recent Apex Legends season ended with a teaser that read, incoming transmission, subject Nessie, and then you have these 3 numbers. I thought these 3 numbers were like coordinates or something, but apparently they are timestamps right here. This mentioned Nessie by name, and now the plushie mascot has appeared in Titanfall 2. But the most interesting thing is the number sequence, which are Unix timestamps for the release dates of Titanfall, Titanfall 2, and Apex Legends. Could this be hinting that Respawn's working on a new project? Now, obviously, that's where everybody's mind goes, is Titanfall 3, man. They're going to be doing another Titanfall 3, right? You got your 3 timestamps for the games they've done up to now, and everybody's probably thinking, okay, time for your 4th game, time to push something else out into the public. And is Titanfall 3 in development after being previously canceled is sort of the next question that the article asks. From where I sit, I already outlined my theory. I think that's the most plausible thing going on, is that they're going to be doing something inside of Titanfall 2 to test for Titanfall 3. I don't think they need help building a great story. Like, they could build an amazing story, base it off of everything that went right in the first game, bring back some of the things and threads and elements that, you could say are unresolved, because at the very end, they basically let you know that, somebody's still around in a unique way. And then you could, kind of have a great another story, a great continuation, maybe even add some co-op. But I think if they really want to take the Titanfall gameplay loop within PvP and help it to land in 2023 or 2024, let's just imagine it comes out in a couple of years. Well, 2025, I think player expectations for these types of games have shifted quite a bit. I don't think you can just launch like a really tight, fun arena shooter and be like, yeah, it also has Titans in it. You have to nail other elements. There needs to be the ability for like long tail engagement, maybe even larger scale fights, closer to a battle royale with the popularity of battle royale. My initial thought was, before I really looked at everything, I was like, oh, I bet you they're just going to throw Titans in Apex. There'll be like a Titan mode. This seems to be something they're doing specifically inside of Titanfall 2, which is where my mind then went to, oh, they're going to use it as a testing ground, because if you're trying to do a new type of game mode or larger areas or new abilities, guns, all the different things that have to go into balancing a game like Titanfall, it's better to do that with community feedback. I've really been discussing with the community a lot lately, is that any game that wants to last, any live service game, any game that really wants to get long tail engagement has to consider launching in early access, getting that player feedback, getting those people to say, this is going to work, this is not going to work. We've recently heard that Tom Clancy's The Division Heartland is basically going to get, as far as we can tell, put on ice and maybe just folded into The Division 3. But Heartland was basically a mode. Like, I looked at it, I covered it, I looked at all the details. They basically took a game mode and they were like, oh, we're going to launch this as a game. And I don't think it was going to work. And I think they're probably thinking the same thing about Titanfall. It's like, well, if we try to launch a game that has Titanfall-esque PvP, that's a 7-year-old game. Like, the expectations from players have shifted quite a bit. Yes, Titanfall's great. It's a cult classic. It deserved better treatment than it got. But you're really going to have to make some changes, I think, if you want a game like this to go the distance. If you just launch another nice, really tight arena shooter that has Titans in it and the Titan mechanic and even some of the Titan-only modes, I think even if you do that and you nail it, I don't know if you would capture enough people long-term. It would be flash in the pan kind of a thing. And I know that this is likely what faced The Last of Us Factions 2. When Bungie looked at it, they're like, this is not built to last. Why? Well, the developers probably built a really great game mode, but a game mode will not carry a game long-term. So this could be basically early access of Titanfall 3, a testing ground for anything they want to do in the next game. I am confident that Titanfall 3 will exist at some point in the future, and if this is the way they get there, if this is one of the earliest, iterations or glimpses at it that we get to see, man, I'm all for it. I loved Titanfall 1 and 2. I'm not a big PvP guy, so I am looking for the PvE angle here. Like, at least give me a great campaign and resolve the story and have a nice trilogy. So I would love to know what you think. Leave a comment below, or you can come into the next segment, which is typically a debrief with my members. You can become a member for $5 a month, and you get to come to all the extra content like that. And if you can't do membership, watch as much as you can. We have a very generous community, always gifting members. Hey, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the content. That way I can see you in the next video.